for directly or indirectly holding any L1M shares at the moment?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And now give the time to you and Alex.
Okay. Thanks, Joshua, for the opportunity here. Yep. Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm very good, Frank. How are you?
Good. Hope you have a great new year. Yep. It's a new start for everybody.
Happy New Year to you and everybody listening. I think it's going to be a good 2023.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yep. Today, we're very pleased to invite Alex, the CEO of Lithium Miners, to join our live stream. Alex has over 20 years experience in the engineering and mining sectors. Before we start the presentation, hi, Alex, can you just introduce a little bit about yourself and your experience?
Of course. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Lithium Minerals. We listed on the 22nd of November last year. My background, I'm a mining engineer. I was educated at the Western Australian School of Mines here in Australia. I'm also the Vice President of the Western Australian School of Mines alumni. I am also a non-exec director of Metals Australia, MLS on the ASX. And previously, I was the Managing Director of Critical Resources, which is a company we took over and took from $20 million to about 170 million by developing that critical minerals thematic and exposing ourselves to lithium. So when I left there last year, the opportunity to start Lithium Minerals presented itself, and we'll take you through that today. It's an exciting opportunity, a new listing with a lot of upside.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, so you have very great experience in the industry. Yep. Now we will focus on 3 parts to learn about the Lithium Miners and the project exploration plan for the next 12 months, the outlook for the Australian lithium mining industry in 2023, and the price trend of various battery metals. Now I will leave the time to Alex to start the presentation. Yep. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Frank. So yeah, I'll take you through our corporate presentation. This is available on our website, of course, listed under the code L1M on the ASX. We'll go through a bit of the corporate overview, what our strategy is. And I think at the end of this, Frank and I are going to do a quick question and answer session and drill down on some of these points more specifically. So look, I think it's good to start with the investment highlights. I think that's always a good starting point for these presentations, and I'll sort of talk about the projects more specifically. Fundamentally for us, we've got a strong asset base. We've got underexplored assets in an emerging lithium province. All our projects are here in Western Australia. They're in close proximity to major resources projects from tier 1 companies, including Liontown Resources. Also in the region, you would have seen a deal yesterday where Tianqi and IGO took over Essential Metals, which is a lithium project very near us. So we're looking at lithium, but we're also looking at the whole critical minerals thematic. So it's not just lithium focused. We're looking at copper. We're looking at nickel, PGEs, rare earth elements as well. So, it's good to be in Western Australia. Obviously, we love Western Australia as a jurisdiction. This is where a lot of my experience comes from. Also Canada, but, it's good to have projects close to home. And I'm based in Perth full time. So our team, very experienced. We're a multidiscipline team. We've got proven track records of growing companies and executing projects and building projects. Experience ranges across mining, geology, corporates, finance, and transactions, and of course commercial. And when we look at the thematic that we're in, critical minerals, this is a we were talking just before the call started, Frank and I, and this is a trend that's set to continue. Critical minerals is a great thematic to be involved in. We see this policy-driven change. We've seen how much that has affected, the pricing of all critical minerals over the past, couple of years. Even last year, 2022, which was a bit difficult for some of us in the market, we still saw good pricing for the whole suite of critical minerals. So it's great to be exposed to that. And finally, we have a very clear growth strategy. When we listed in November, we raised $7 million with an enterprise value of about 2.6 million. So $10 million market cap, You know, very, very good opportunity to add significant value there. Obviously, that comes down to the work that we're doing on the ground, and I'll talk about that shortly. But, you know, a low EV opportunity, new listing, good register, supportive shareholders in a growing sector. So let's move on to, I'll just have a chat about the corporate snapshot. So I'll discuss the board quickly. I won't go into too much detail. As I say, this is available on our website, lightningminerals.com.au. So our chairman is Peter McNeil, very experienced geologist, also in corporate as well, been chairman and on the board of a number of ASX and TSXV listed companies. And then me, Alex Biggs, Chief Executive Officer. So my background is mining engineering. As I said, I also, you know, started my career in mechanical engineering. That was back in the UK. I've lived in Australia for 20 years now. But I've also got experience in finance. I used to work in private equity as well. So, you know, having that expertise across, you know, technical, corporate and finance is very important. And most recently, of course, as I mentioned, I was previously the Managing Director of Critical Resources, CRR, on the ASX, which we took from $20 million to its peak of 170 million. Next on the list, Dr. Karen Lloyd, very experienced geologist, mining engineer as well, also worked in finance and investment banking. So it's really good to have this technical oversight on the board and the management team, okay? I think that's really important. You know, mining companies should be run by mining people. So, you know, it's great to have this depth of expertise and oversight. And the last two, Frank Canavo. Frank's an experienced company director, you know, commercial businessman. He sits on the board of 3 ASX listed companies. And then we have Craig Sharp, who is a stockbroker who works for Bell Potter out of Melbourne. 25 years experience in the finance sector across Asia and Australia, brings a very strong network of investors to the table. And I think, you know, that's the common thread with all of us, okay? We all have very strong networks and connections in the finance industry, both here in Australia, in Asia, myself in North America as well, spent a lot of time in North America and Canada. So, you know, that's really, really good to support the story. I'll just make a note, we've recently appointed an exploration manager, Jared Woodland. He started last week, has a lot of experience in the lithium space and critical mineral space. So it's important that we build that team with the right expertise to action our exploration plan, which we'll discuss next. We'll talk about this first. So look, let's just look at the macro. Let's look at the thematic of critical minerals. And, you know, when I look at this slide, all I really want to look at is the chart on the right-hand side. You know, so this is growth in mineral demand in 2040 relative to a base of 2020. So 42 times more lithium is required, 25 times more graphite, 21 more times cobalt, okay? The way I talk about this is pretty simple. Even if these numbers are half wrong, and they're half of that, okay? If it's 21 times, it's 12 times, 13 times, 10 times, that is a massive deficit. That's a massive deficit. And policy-driven change is great, that's fine. Governments can put all these things in play and say, we need to change this, we need to change that. The one thing that is required is you need the supply, you need the commodities. So, you know, that exposes us to a sector that is, you know, very buoyant, and we see prices remaining strong across all the critical minerals for some time to come. So let's have a look at our projects. So we have 4 project areas, all in Western Australia, as I said. Our focus is the Dundas project at the bottom of that map. So these projects were acquired from FMG, and FMG are a shareholder of Lightning. That's a big tick of approval to have those guys involved. Our focus is battery minerals, lithium, nickel, cobalt, copper, PGEs. That's our clear strategy. Okay, we want to focus on that. We see that's the thematic we want to follow. When we look at our peers in the region and we look at our neighbours, you know, there's a lot of success in the Dundas region right now. And it's just south of Kalgoorlie. So it's about 2 hours south of Kalgoorlie. Everyone would know Kalgoorlie, of course, famous gold district, and south of that, Kambalda, famous nickel district. Dundas is a district that's now emerging. Always known for gold and nickel in the past, but in the last few years, it's really emerged as a lithium province. You can see this with this map. So these are just some of the principal projects, main projects. If you look at our licenses down there in the south, Dundas South as we call it, they surround Liontown's Baldania project. Now that asset is 15 million tonnes at 1% right now. And they're looking to expand that and do more exploration work there. Our leases are directly alongside their leases. And we see similar geologies and lithologies from their project into our project, which is what we're testing right now. Also, if you look at Bald Hill, that's a fairly significant project, 27 million tonnes plus. I know they're doing more exploration work out there. Our other Dundas assets are 30 kilometres to the east of that. And again, we see very, prospective ground, not explored for lithium really in the past. So herein lies the opportunity. So a couple of weeks before Christmas, we did a site trip there and we identified a number of pegmatite occurrences at surface. If you look at our announcements, I think it was 13th of December, you can read through that and look at what we found. And those pegmatite occurrences will form the basis for an initial drill program. We've currently got guys on site doing a soil sampling campaign. They will be looking at some higher priority areas around those pegmatites. We're also doing a geophysics interpretation right now. We'll put that work together and we're looking at drilling end of March this year. So, there's a lot of targets and a lot of opportunity in these leases. Which is very exciting for us. So just drilling down a little bit on that Dundas project south, you can see there in the centre of that map, that is the Liontown project, that's the Baldania asset. Obviously, it's a secondary asset for Liontown. They're focused on Kathleen Valley, of course, which is 80 million tonnes. But, at 15 million tonnes, this project represents a lot of upside for them, a lot of blue sky. So, when we were out on site, we saw the guys drilling there. So they're doing work there. So, to be that close to that project is fantastic. If you look at this lease in the bottom here, this is 2001, and we can see similar lithologies continue down through into our lease and also to the south of us. This lease down here is owned by a company called Lavoto Resources, LRV on the ASX. The important thing to look at here is this orange area in the middle. This is the granite, okay? And when we look at where lithium forms, it typically forms around the edges of the granite, as we're seeing like this. So we're certainly in the right area, and having located pegmatites on this 2001 lease, it makes sense that now we need to do some further work and we need to start drilling there in March, April this year. So Dundas North projects, these are up near Bald Hill, very underexplored, 30 kilometres to the east of Bald Hill. We had a walk around there. We actually went around this southern tenement when we were there, and we found some pegmatites occurrences here as well. So, we need to do some more reconnaissance work in that area, of course, and we'll be looking at doing some more soil sampling over the coming weeks there, and then work out what a drill program looks like. Whether we drill there in March, I don't know. Maybe we'll leave that till later in the year, because I think our focus really needs to be, the southern tenements which are near the Baldania asset, Liontown's asset. All right, so look, a summary of what the strategy is here. Those southern tenements are a priority. Minimal historic exploration for lithium, gold and nickel exploration in the past, but not so much lithium. Being surrounded by all these companies and resources and assets that are such high quality is a really big tick for the area and the region. And, Dundas right now is probably one of the hottest exploration areas in the world, I would say. We'll have a look at some of our peers in a minute, but see what they're doing. But it's really good to be there, and it's very hard to acquire ground there, and to acquire that ground from FMG is obviously a big tick as well. And we've already identified a number of anomalies which we need to test. So the guys here, very aggressive in their exploration strategy. I mean, if any of you guys have seen me before, say with Critical Resources, my previous role, you'll know how aggressive I am in my exploration strategies and how we run the company and, you know, create news flow. So, you know, we've got news flow coming up. And I think once we start seeing that news flow and we start drilling, I think things will get very exciting for us. I'll just talk briefly about our other projects. Okay, so Mount Jewel, Mailman Hill and Mount Bartle. So Mount Jewel is a nickel project up near Kalgoorlie, near Black Swan, very well-known nickel district there. That's a project we'll be doing some work on this year. That's sort of our secondary target, I would say at this stage. Mailman Hill, likely a gold project, although very near to Murrin nickel operations. I mean, that's the Glencore asset. I mean, I think there's something like 250 million tons there. So, you know, close proximity to that. I think it's probably gold. We'll find out later this year. And Mount Bartle, the exploration licenses are, applications are pending right now. We expect those to be approved shortly. And that's a really interesting area. It's up near Roslyn Hills Magellan mine, which is a lead mine. But there's also lead, there's zinc, there's copper, there's silver. Again, it all fits into this critical minerals thematic. And the great thing about all these projects, and with Dundas, they're all in Western Australia. You can access them easily. They're off the highway. There's good infrastructure in place, and they're proven mineral fields. They're proven regions and proven areas. So, you know, we've got a pretty good suite of assets as a starting point. I'll just talk about this briefly. You know, our commitment to ESG, it's important now. ESG, it's a buzzword, you know, of course, and, you know, but I look at it like this. We just need to be running our business with this in mind, okay? And I think it's the right way to do things. And I think it's the way most people do things anyway. You know, we need to be sustainable in what we do. You know, we need to provide opportunity. We need to collaborate. And don't forget, we're future focused. You know, we're looking at this evolving critical minerals and green energy thematic. So naturally, sustainability fits in with that, particularly when we look at it from an investment perspective. You know, people look at your carbon footprint. And, you know, if you do things right, it also leads to a reduction in your costs as well. So, you know, commitment to ESG, it's something we do. It's something we'll be expanding on as we grow as a business. So news flow for the first 12 months. So these quarters, Q1, 2, 3, 4, are post IPO. So we listed 22nd of November. So more or less yearly quarters, okay? So we're doing this geochem soil sampling campaign at the moment at Dundas across all our leases. That's going very well. The geophysics work and targeting work is going very well as too. So, you know, what I like to do, I like to get all this information, put it together, and then we develop clear targets of what we're going to explore and what we're exploring for. And we have priorities on those targets. You know, this is the higher priority. And that's how we like to do things. So that's what we're going to do. Come Q2, that'll be our stage 1 diamond drilling at Dundas. You know, and we'll start looking at an exploration strategy for Mount Jewel and our other projects too. As a stage 1 diamond drilling program, probably about 5,000 meters, I think, initially. We're working on that right now, but I think you need to be doing meaningful exploration. You know, you can't go and drill 1,000 meters. It needs to be meaningful. So we're probably looking around about that 5,000 meter number. Q3, we're going to start seeing those results coming through from Dundas. And then, you know, we should be in a position to start looking at a stage 2 drill plan for Dundas. Don't forget, we've got 450 square kilometers across Dundas, across that region, okay, across 8 different tenements. There's a lot of work to do there. There's a lot of good indications of strong mineralization and, you know, good upside. So, you know, we can keep drilling there. We don't see an issue with that, but we need to make sure we get those priorities right. And Q4, we'll start looking at results, you know, stage 2 drilling from Dundas. And, you know, I think if you can look at this year like this, that, you know, we've done soil sampling, geophys, and 2 drill campaigns at Dundas, plus we've done some other work on our other projects. Of course, we have to do that. You know, we have to keep our expenditure up. That's a very successful year for us. And I believe that certainly from an exploration perspective, highly prospective, good news flow, something which can generate a lot of excitement in the stock. We'll just finish on this one, regional peer analysis. I encourage you guys to look at these companies and see what they're doing. Lavoto Resources, just to the south of us, they're drilling for lithium right now. The tenement that's directly to the south of us. Done an interesting deal recently with Waratah Capital, Ernie Ortiz out of New York. Interesting that they're involved in a company at this stage. But that's another big tick for the region as well, okay? Liontown Resources, we've spoken about them, being close to those guys in that proximity, sharing the same mythologies, sharing the same geology, that's great, that's fantastic. So good to have them as a neighbour. Take a look at Galileo, they're just to the other side of Norseman, so they're about 30 kilometres from us, just to the west-hand side. They've had a very good year. They're looking at nickel, copper, cobalt, PGEs, fantastic project, a fantastic project there. And of course, Global Lithium, the Manna project, which they've acquired from Breaker Resources. Good resource there, plus 10 million tonnes, over 1%. All the right things, that we would look for in a project. Okay, so they're just to the northeast of us from our Dundas North tenement. So I'll just summarise the key points again, and then we'll finish there. So look, strong asset base. Okay, underexplored assets in this emerging lithium province, in close proximity to some very good projects and very well-established neighbours, but multiple other critical minerals too, which we're exploring for. Team is great. It's always good to have a good team and build your team. And, it's about having an ethos in your business, and, people need to, fit into that. And certainly the board that we have is fantastic. And, the two guys we've got here in the geology team, Jared and Will, are fantastic as well. So, it's good to have people like that working with you. Thematic wise, critical minerals, yeah, we know it's good. It's a mega trend. It's continuing. It's policy driven. Prices are remaining high. They're going to stay high moving forward. That therein lies the opportunity and growth strategy. Guys, we're trading at like 18 cents right now, just below issue, but we'll be okay. We're not too far off our cash value. So, when you look at it from an enterprise value perspective, this is a great opportunity for growth, and multiples of the share price. So that's where we see the company. I mean, I encourage you guys, put us on your watch list. Look what we're doing. Look at our announcements we released before Christmas. We started our exploration the day after we listed. Okay, not many companies do that. So we're aggressive in our approach. We're considered in our approach. We're diligent in our approach. So please put us on your list. Take a look at us. I thank you for listening very much. And Frank, back to you.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, it's, for my opinion, yeah, it's really a great company and a great projects, and definitely great management. It's tick all the boxes for me, for myself. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And yeah, let's start the QA questions. Yep. And the first one, this is great one. We all know 2022 was a hard year for most of junior mining companies, and also for most of companies in US and Hong Kong, due to COVID-19 and high CPI. Need the interest rate rising very quickly. So it is very hard for rising capital and high pressure for the share price. So what's your opinion for the following year, 2023? Yep.
Yeah, it certainly was a difficult year, 2022. I mean, when we listed Lightning, we raised $7 million. We got interest for over 40 million. Okay, so yep, there's still interest there for good teams and good projects. Okay, I always think that's true, whether it's a buoyant market or a not so buoyant market. I think that 2023 is going to be better. Obviously, there's a lot of macro things coming into play here. I think we'll see another interest rate rise, but we're already starting to see talk about, interest rates being cut towards the end of the year. I think now that China coming out of COVID, and policies being implemented there will certainly drive growth again. Obviously, there's other macro things, the war in Ukraine, I think that will come to an end. I think the past, particularly probably from March to the end of 2022, people were nervous, people were scared, but guess what? Commodity prices still remained pretty strong. There was just a lot of uncertainty, so that gives us a really good base to work from. So if you've got good projects, you've got a good strategy, you've got a good team, you've got a bit of money in the bank, I think 2023 really is a year where you can really get some success.
Yep, thanks, Alex. Agree with you. Yep, let's go to your next questions. Yep. What's your opinion on the lithium and the nickel price in 2023? We all know the price of battery is most affected by these two matters.
Yeah, look, I mean, let's look at the lithium price today compared to what it was, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, say, right? Obviously, it's a lot higher. Obviously, it is a cost, that's passed on to the consumer. But ultimately, there's a lot of other costs which, are part of building a car or building a piece of equipment that requires a battery. Where do I think the prices will go? I think they'll remain high. I think where lithium is right now, I think it's a pretty good price still. I mean, let's remember, right, at these prices. Okay, if you want to convert it into a gold equivalent, something like that, like a gold grade, at these prices, it's probably about 9 grams per ton, which is very high, right? Like that's the equivalent, at 1% lithium. Okay, so when we look at it from that perspective, it's still a highly valuable commodity. I just think that because there's very few lithium producers that are proven over, long periods of time, it's hard for people to understand what the pricing represents. But, there's going to be a shortage. This policy-driven change, I mean, it might implement policy, but it doesn't build mines, okay? So that's what we need to do, and we need to find resources and build those projects. So I think both nickel and lithium will remain strong for this year.
Yep, thanks, Alex. Yeah, let's go to next questions. Do you think the CPI and the interest rate will stop rising or drop a little bit in the 2023? Does this situation bring any opportunities for the junior lithium mining companies in next year?
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly noticed that there's less money in my pocket lately. Everything seems a lot more expensive, right? And I mean, just look at the price of cars, right? I mean, look at the price of new cars. I mean, it's unbelievable. And you're having to wait for it. So look, I do believe that they will get it under control. I think there'll be another interest rate rise, and then I think it will start cutting towards the end of the year. But saying that, if we're going to start building infrastructure, if we're going to start doing all these things that we need to create downstream opportunities, from just being a mining company to now having like manufacturing and such, that's only going to drive inflation as well. So, it's a very difficult situation for us to be in, but, I think there's a lot of fear around it. I think the housing market potentially is, there's some risks there. Certainly once people's fixed rate mortgages stop, in the mid-year, there's a lot of people, I think 30% of Australian homeowners, their fixed rate mortgages end in June or July, something like that. So there will be some stress there, for sure. How does that affect our industry? I don't think it affects us from a pricing perspective as far as commodities go, because I think that demand is strong. Maybe it means that there's a little bit less liquidity in stocks and companies, because people maybe are not spending their money that way. They're looking at just paying the bills, right, and such. So look, I don't see it as a major problem. I think that all the time we are developing ideas, we're developing resources, developing mines, new technologies, government supported change, adoption of these things by consumers. I think that's very positive. Not everybody can win, Frank, right? Not everybody in society will win from this, but I think certainly from a junior mining company perspective, I feel very buoyant, particularly with some of the changes that I feel are coming in China to drive growth again. So yeah, look, 2023 is going to be a good year.
Yep. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, the next one. Oh, I like this one. Yeah, actually, a lot of friends ask me as well. we found some EV car companies, including Tesla, have a little bit of pressure on the sales growth during the last few months. So we can count the share price for the Tesla drop a lot for the last season. So will this situation lead to pressure on future battery metal prices, as your opinion?
Look, I think it's reactionary from you know, consumers. I mean, you know, to some degree, like an electric vehicle is still seen as a bit of a luxury right now. You know, I remember when I lived up in China a few years ago, and you used to be able to get an electric vehicle, and you know, you'd be able to get a Tesla, and you didn't pay sales tax on it, and you didn't have to wait, you know, for your plates. You could just get it straight away. But that's a luxury item. That's an expensive vehicle, right? I think that even in the West, we're seeing that, you know, they're still not cheap. Okay. And I think when we look at the pressure, you know, with rising inflation and, you know, interest rates and all these things, consumers are thinking about other things. They're thinking about how do we pay the bills first, you know? But I also believe that sort of medium term, it's okay, because you know, everybody said this year is going to be the end of the world, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. And guess what? We're still here talking, and you know, commodity prices are still high. We're still surviving. So I think it's an adoption of mindset as much as anything. The policy-driven change will make people adopt. It will force people to adopt, you know, electric vehicles, electrification. And of course, other manufacturers will come into the market. As we spoke about off camera, Frank, we spoke about BYD. I'm seeing a lot of BYD vehicles here in Perth. It's fantastic. It's a good car, high quality, you know, good warranties as well, at a lot cheaper than you'll pay for a Tesla. So I think that's what will happen. That's BYD's opportunity right now to really take market share. And EVs not to be seen just as a luxury item, but as something which everybody can afford.
Yep, thanks. Understand. Yep, the last one. We all know L1M has an aggressive exploration plan in the next 12 months. So based on your experience, anything we can expect to fund in the Dundas project?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, I outlaid our you know, our yearly plan there of what we're doing. I mean, having been to site just before Christmas and identified, you know, a number of pegmatite outcrops and obviously our proximity to, you know, other lithium resources and known mineralization, I would certainly expect us to be, you know, getting results as, you know, across the lithium space, across the critical mineral space. As I say, it's not just lithium. You know, we've got rare earth elements there as well. So, you know, the key here is, Frank, you have to do the work, right? You have to do the work, and you have to get on the ground, and you have to be aggressive. And, you know, if you're not that, then you don't get any results. Okay. So we'll be out there. We're doing the work. We're committed to our exploration plan. We've got the team in place to do it. We've got the resources. We've got some very smart people in this business. So, you know, I would just say to people, put us on the watch list, keep watching, look at what we've done up until Christmas. Bear in mind that was just a month we were listed, and you know, things are going to accelerate now, and we're going to be very, very aggressive in our exploration strategy. Okay, thanks, Alex. Yep. If any audience have the questions, you can contact the Tiger Brokers, or you can contact Alex directly. Yeah, thanks everyone. This is the end of today's interview, and let's thanks Alex again for his great presentation. And we are looking forward to catching up with Alex again on the update of the L1M project in future. All the best. Thanks, Alex. Thank you. All the best.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks.